a trio of scholars in leadership and the arts, and they had us do an Alice in Wonderland, like through the looking glass kind of thing, where we went down into the rabbit hole, and they used basic props, theater techniques, but they used basic props, and it was amazing how just a few minutes to transform that room into like a visioning space for leaders in higher ed, leaders in corporations, etc. But it was only those few little moments, skilled facilitators leading us into a magical place where we could just lose ourselves and get fresh perspective. So it's amazing.
That's awesome.
Amazing.
Thank you for sharing that. I really wish I would have done that. Sounds amazing. But I think you really hit on the point of the skilled facilitator. I think that is such an important part in creating arts opportunities for people of any age. You need to, as a facilitator, create that safe space so that people feel comfortable experimenting and being able to express their ideas. The beautiful thing about an art class is there's no real right or wrong. It's just an invitation to play and to explore and to be creative.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I love that you talk about magic, you talk about experimentation and play. And could you just say a little bit more, Jen, about what are some of the ways that you engage in play and that maybe our listeners could also do that? And how do you make it part of your everyday life, your practice, so to speak?
Thank you for asking that question. This is one of my favorite things to talk about, actually, because I try to play every day in as many possible ways as I can. I've recently been doing some talks at our local library system about the importance of play. As part of that, we talk about what are those things that you can do on an everyday basis that invites play into your life. So here are some things that I've come up with and that I practice every day, or try to. So one of the things is just really simple things like changing the radio station at your home that you maybe listen to every day, or changing the route that you drive to your office. So if you drive in a different way, you see things differently. It may take a little bit more time. You may see a new restaurant that you might want to try. You might just have a different perspective on your neighborhood if you just drive a different way. So I try to do that at least the drive thing at least twice a week, and the radio thing I switch it up almost every day, a different radio station that I listen to. In addition to that, when I take my dog for a walk, we have a 5-month-old puppy. He's very cute. When I take our dog for a walk, I bring my camera with me and take pictures of our walk. And so I try to challenge myself to take 20 different pictures or something in my walk. And sometimes I also give myself a theme of what is this walk going to be today? And, it's the banana walk. And so I think about that. I'm just looking at a box that has bananas on it. That's why I thought of it. So I think about that particular theme, and then I think, okay, well, how can I create photographs that are going to tie to this particular theme? So those are some things. And then recently we also have started to get some cookbooks out of the library and try different kinds of food. So just new ways of challenging yourself to think outside of the regular routine and regular ideas that you are doing on a daily basis. So those are, a couple of little things. And as I mentioned, I'm on this new knitting kick. And so I've been playing with the same ball of yarn for a couple of weeks, and I keep changing my mind about what I want to make. So I start something, and then I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. And then I take it out and try again. So for me, it's less about the final product, and it's more about the process of engaging in stretching your mind and your creativity in new ways. So those are some ideas, I would say.
Thank you. I was just taking notes as you were talking. You have a little ebook, I think, here.
Oh, great.
Yeah, and these are basic things that maybe regular people who don't think of themselves as creative probably do some of, but they never probably thought about it as play, right?
Yeah.
Changing things up. and stretching your mind. So thank you for these suggestions, Jen. As you were talking, I was also thinking about how it really helps our overall health and well-being, and how it helps our brain fire in different ways, and, you know, it helps to strengthen areas, to build new areas, new neurons, new synapses, all of those kinds of things. So you took me on a journey.
Oh, good. I think the play itself gets a bad rap a lot of times, because I think that oftentimes play is thought of as something that children do and that adults either shouldn't do, or it's not the right thing to do. But it's really important, as you were just saying, Gloria. It's super important in any stage of life. And it doesn't have to be a huge, like, I'm going to buy 80 million colored markers and create a masterpiece. It can be just driving a different way to the office, just to sort of stretch your mind in new ways.
That's great, and I love the taking your dog for a walk, and you know, just thinking of ways to do that, and different ways to engage yourself, probably engage your dog, maybe other people as well. A banana walk and leads to all kinds of conversations. So I love that you talk about play and that it's part of your life, Jen, and you said something just a little bit ago that play is important no matter what stage of life we're in. And I know that you work across the arc, the spectrum of generations. So could you tell us a little bit more about that, the spectrum, and how play plays a part along the developmental cycle, and maybe also shine a little bit more light on your work with people who have dementia and degenerative processes going on, and how play comes into light there?
Yeah. I guess I'll address the last part of your question first. So Silver Kite Community Arts specializes in creating intergenerational arts experiences and arts programs for older adults. And so in the last couple of years, we have been offering dementia-inclusive programs for persons who are experiencing memory loss and their care partners to engage in the arts. And what we've found is that creating those opportunities allows connections to happen between the persons with dementia and care partners by creating opportunities for folks to engage in new things together, which boosts the self-esteem of both the care partner as well as the person with dementia, as well as it's fun. And so we have been offering dementia-inclusive, dementia-friendly classes in storytelling, in poetry, in watercolor, and in dance. And I would say that our dance classes are currently the ones that are the most popular. We've been doing them all around the region in both private retirement communities and memory care communities, as well as having opportunities open to the public in partnership with the King County Library Systems and Seattle Parks Department. So what we have heard and what we have seen in particularly the dance class is that the participants, for the time that they're engaging in these dance classes, have forgotten that they are dealing with cognitive challenges and issues. Someone who observed one of the classes said it looks like everyone's sort of at a similar cognitive level. That person couldn't tell who had dementia and who didn't based on the participation of the members of the class. And one person who is experiencing memory loss has said to us that participating in our classes allows her to forget that she has the disease for a while, which is really quite wonderful. And we've also found that, and research has shown that, participating in the arts for people who are experiencing memory loss helps to shift their mood to a happier one. So it may be, depending on where a person is in their dementia journey, they may not specifically recall exactly what happened in the class, but walk away from the class feeling like they're happy, they're at peace, their stress level has gone down. And so participating in these kinds of classes helps to shift that attitude and that feeling. That that carries on often for the rest of the day, which is quite a wonderful gift of participation. So I would say that that's some thoughts on working with or providing opportunities for persons with memory loss to engage in the arts. It's beneficial on a lot of different levels.
Thank you. And for our listeners who may not fully understand what dementia is, we have listeners all over the world and in some places in the world where this diagnosis would be even unheard of or unfamiliar. Would you just say a few words about that, Jen?
Sure. So dementia is kind of an umbrella term that describes a whole series of cognitive challenges that deal with the loss of memory, and particularly short-term memory, and often as a disease progresses, perhaps a long-term memory as well.
Thank you. Thank you. And do you know why? I mean, you talked about poetry, watercolor, and dance as kind of the modalities that you offer. Do you know why the movement of the dance is so triggering, not triggering in the sense of what it triggers in the body, but why it seems to get the most response?
I think we're not relying on a verbal output. I think that that's part of it. Because as people move through their dementia journey, and dementia affects people in a lot of different ways. Each person interacts with the disease or one of the diseases in different ways, so it's hard to say when you're at this point in the disease, it's going to affect you this way because it's different for different people. But as people tend to move forward in their dementia journey, it becomes more difficult to verbally communicate. So with dance, we remove that completely. And so there's that piece of it. Also, music is involved, and music, there have been a lot of studies, particularly in the last 5 or so years, about how listening to music, participating in music can really benefit someone cognitively, particularly people with dementia. There's a really wonderful documentary out there that's called Alive Inside that I would highly recommend folks take a look at, which really taps into looking at the science and impact of how music can both shift mood and attitude as well as can actually help to engage the brain so that the person that's listening to the music can communicate in new and different ways. That documentary is quite amazing. So I would recommend that. So I think with the dance, there's the elimination of having to have a verbal communication. Music is involved, which taps into cognition in a different kind of way than sort of other techniques. And then also the movement. So the movement, the way that our instructor facilitates it, it's through mirroring. So you're basically watching the instructor and you're doing the movements with her. So there's no pressure to have to memorize any steps or anything like that. And the movement goes with the music, so it just feels like there's a natural kinesthetic progression or expression of the music in the body. It's quite amazing, I would say.
As you're talking about it, my whole body is responding, so it's amazing. Thank you for sharing a little bit more about that. So, Jen, we are coming up to the end of our conversation for today, but I have a few more questions that I'd like to ask you. Would that be all right?
Sure, yeah.
So I'm wondering if you can just share with us, I'm going to use the word legacy, and how the arts, Jen, contribute to a living legacy for our loved ones?
That is a great question, Gloria. Thank you for that. Well, I think a lot of times people think about legacy as something that you do, and then it's sort of an object or it's something that you're leaving for other people. But I think in terms of a living legacy, I think that participating in the arts and encouraging other family members to participate in the arts is a gift that will last generations. Introducing young people to the arts, introducing parents or siblings to the arts and to the practice of the arts and to the practice of play, and inviting that into family gatherings, inviting that into conversations, inviting that into